Year, 2849 CE. Location, Velhari Prime Orbital, the Academy. Kael. Age, 11. There are moments that divide a life into before and after. Not the dramatic ones, not the battles or the promotions or the public triumphs that history files love to record. Those are rarely the real divisions. The real ones are quieter. A door. A choice. A hand reaching towards something in the dark. Kael Raven had been 11 years old for 43 days when he touched the artifact. He did not know, in the moment his fingers closed around it, that he was holding something that had waited longer than human civilization had existed. He did not know that the symbols carved into its smooth surface were not decoration but instruction, the distilled knowledge of a species so ancient that their star had gone cold before humanity learned to grow food. He did not know that the warmth he felt was not temperature. It was recognition. The artifact had been waiting for the specific frequency of what Kael Raven was. Not a human. Not an ordinary gifted child. Something it had been designed for, across an incomprehensible span of time, with a patience that made the universe's age look like an afternoon. What happened next took 47 seconds. It changed everything. This is the story of the awakening. What it cost. What it gave. What it made him into. And the question that has no answer yet, the one that sat in Kael Raven's chest every morning afterward when he opened his eyes and felt the world pressing in on him from every direction, vast and detailed and overwhelming. Was it an accident that he found it? Or had it been waiting for him, specifically, all along? It began as wrongness. Not pain, not quite. Something more subtle and more persistent than pain. A quality of wrongness in his awareness, like a note played slightly off-key in music he had been listening to for so long that perfect pitch had become invisible. He noticed it for the first time in the third week of the new term, in Xenobiology, a subject he found moderately interesting and which was held in one of the Academy's older teaching chambers on the second ring. The display cases ran along the room's eastern wall. 6 of them, floor-to-ceiling transparent alloy, each one containing specimens and artifacts relevant to the course material. Standard academic display. The kind of thing that becomes invisible through familiarity. Kael had walked past them 14 times without issue. On the 15th, he felt it. It was located in the 4th case from the left, on the middle shelf. It was approximately the size and shape of a large egg, an ostrich egg, his memory offered. Smooth. The color of deep space between stars, not quite black, not quite the absence of color, but something that seemed to absorb light in the specific way that very old things do, as if they have seen enough light already and have no further interest in reflecting it. Symbols covered its surface. Not carved deeply, inscribed with precision, lines so fine they were almost invisible until the light caught them at a specific angle, at which point they resolved into a pattern so complex and so internally consistent that the eye wanted to find meaning in it. These were not random. He knew this immediately. These were not decoration. They were information. In a language he did not know and had never encountered and that did not exist in any database the Academy's systems could access. The label beneath it read, Unknown Origin. Possibly Precompact Civilization. Acquisition date, 2789 CE. Function, undetermined. He stood in front of the case for 11 seconds. He knew the duration because he noted it, the way he noted everything, before the instructor's voice from the front of the room recalled his attention and he moved to his seat. But something had happened in those 11 seconds that had not happened before. His reaching had activated. Not because he had asked it to. Because the object in the case had done something to it.
Thinks. That is impossible. The reaching responds to living things. To active systems. The object in the case is either. And yet.
He returned to the Xenobiology chamber 4 times over the following week, on pretexts that were academically legitimate. Each visit confirmed what the first had established and added new information. The pull was not constant. It operated in pulses, slow, regular, like a heartbeat at a frequency below hearing. He could feel it through the reaching when he was within approximately 8 meters of the case. It felt, he thought on the 3rd visit, like standing at the edge of an ocean for the first time. Knowing intellectually what an ocean was. And then encountering the actual thing and understanding that intellectual knowledge and experiential reality were separated by a distance that had no unit of measurement. His sleep deteriorated. He told no one. His lens noticed on day 4.
Reduced sleep duration. 6th consecutive day. Average reduction, 1.8 hours. Physiological stress markers within normal range, but trending upward.
I know.
The pattern began on the day of the first Xenobiology session of the new term.
You noticed.
I notice everything about you. You know this.
There is an object in a display case in Chamber 7. I have been aware of it through the reaching. The pull is increasing.
I cannot detect it through station systems. No active signal. No electromagnetic output. No gravitational anomaly. And yet you feel it.
Yes.
What do you intend to do?
Kael looked at the navigational display. He thought about the shade stalker in the jungle, the moment he had stopped and held his ground and reached, instead of running. He thought about his father's hands.
I intend to understand it. Whatever it is, it found me. That means something.
The lens pulsed once. Not its standard pulse. Something that Kael had come to recognize, over 2 years of this particular relationship, as the lens equivalent of, I hear you. I am with you. Be careful. The Academy's curatorial records, which Kael accessed through the institution's administrative database using his advanced program research credentials, were thorough in every respect except the one that mattered. The object had been acquired in 2789 CE, 60 years ago, 12 years before Kael was born, during an expedition to the outer debris field of a star system approximately 3 hours beyond the Dravani corridor's far exit. What they found was not geological. It was structural, the remains of something that had once been built, reduced by time and radiation and impact to fragments so old that conventional dating technology refused to give a result, returning instead a notation that appeared in the records as simply, measurement beyond instrument range. Among the fragments, one object had survived intact. Egg-shaped. Smooth. The size of a large clenched fist. A material that spectroscopic analysis could not classify. The symbols on its surface were photographed and distributed to every language and symbol database accessible to the Compact's academic institutions. No match was found. No partial match. No structural similarity to any known script or notation system from any culture in recorded history. 23 researchers had handled it over 60 years. None had reported any unusual reaction. None had felt warmth. None had experienced any physiological or psychological effect. The curator's note at the bottom of the record, written by the expedition's lead scientist in 2789 and never updated, read, "This object does not appear to be dangerous. It does not appear to be active. It does not appear to respond to any stimulus we have been able to apply. It appears, in every measurable respect, to be inert." I record this with the specific caveat that inert describes our measurement capacity as much as it describes the object itself. We do not know what we do not know. Kael read this note 3 times. Then he read that final line again, "We do not know what we do not know." He thought, 23 researchers. None of them felt anything. The reaching has been active in me since I was 8 years old, and in some form since birth, and it has been growing, and nothing like it has ever been documented in any person in any record I can access.
Thanks. It was not waiting for a researcher. It was waiting for whatever I am.
This thought, arriving with the below-conscious certainty that he had learned over years to trust rather than dismiss, was not comforting. It was the specific quality of a truth that is simultaneously wonderful and terrifying, the kind that changes the shape of everything around it. She was on the observation deck when he arrived. He sat beside her. The dome showed a clear view tonight, no debris scatter, no atmospheric interference from the planet below. Just space, in its full, unreduced, patient depth. She looked at him for a moment. Not the brief glance of someone noting a presence, the full attention she brought to things she found worth attending to.
You haven't been sleeping.
No.
Is it the Dravani aftermath? The report about the military vessel?
No. Something else.
She waited. He was quiet for a moment. He had not planned to say anything. But there was something about the specific quality of Lyra's silence, the complete lack of demand in it, that made the space between them feel safe in a way that made honesty easier than withholding.
There is something in one of the teaching chambers. An object. Alien. Ancient. It has been here for 60 years and nobody has reacted to it.
You have.
Yes.
What does it feel like?
like a direction. Like the compass, but stronger. Like something that knows I exist and has been waiting.
She turned and looked at him. In the starlight, her dark eyes were very clear and very direct.
What are you going to do?
Tomorrow, after last session, the chamber will be empty. I'm going to touch it.
She held his gaze. He could feel, with the reaching, which was always present near her now, always registering the specific warm frequency of what she felt without demanding acknowledgement or response, the weight of what she was not saying. The concern that was real and immediate and that she was choosing to hold rather than place on him as a burden. Instead she said,
Will you tell me what happens?
Yes. Whatever it is. I'll tell you.
They sat there for a long time, in the particular silence that had become one of the most reliable things in his academy life. He did not tell her he was afraid. But she knew. He knew she knew. And neither of them performed anything about it, which was, he had come to understand, the most honest form of care available. When he left the dome that night, she said,
Kael.
He turned.
Whatever it shows you. You are still you. Remember that.
He stood in the dome entrance for a moment, looking at her. Then he went back to the dormitory and lay in his alcove and felt the pull until the station's morning cycle began. The Xenobiology chamber was empty at 1847 station time, the day's final session having concluded 40 minutes earlier. The lights were at standby level, the amber half-light that the Academy systems defaulted to in unoccupied rooms, warm and low and oddly intimate in a space designed for 20 cadets at full operational brightness. Kael stood at the chamber entrance for a moment. He had not brought his bag. He had come from his last session with nothing, no lens notes open, no navigational data running in the background, no work in progress. He had spent the afternoon clearing his mind the way his mother had taught him to clear it, not by forcing it empty, but by letting everything currently in it settle to the bottom, like sediment in disturbed water, until the surface was still. The pull, as he crossed the chamber threshold, intensified immediately. Inside the chamber it was something else, a physical quality, like pressure without weight, like warmth without heat source, coming from the fourth display case with the unambiguous specificity of a signal sent to one recipient. He walked to the case. He entered the code. The case unsealed with a soft release of pressure. He reached in. His fingers closed around the object and the world stopped. Not literally, not physically. The amber light continued its amber light. The station continued its rotation. Somewhere 3 rings away, DOS was probably conducting a running commentary on something. The universe continued without interruption. But for Kael Raven, everything stopped. The warmth hit first. Not from the surface, through it. Through his fingers and up through his hands and into his wrists and arms and chest and spine, a warmth that was not temperature but was something that warmth was the closest available word for. Not heat. Something that warmth pointed toward the way a compass needle points toward a direction without being the direction itself. Then the symbols on the surface lit. Not with light he could see, with something his brain processed as light because it had no other available category. They lit in sequence, beginning at the point of contact with his hands and spiraling outward across the object's surface in a pattern that was not random and not decorative and that he understood, in some part of him that was below language, was the startup sequence of something that had been waiting an incomprehensible time for exactly this moment. Then the knowing began. It was not like reading. It was not like being told. It was more like remembering something he had never known, the paradox of that resolving itself instantly into the lived experience of it, which was, reality arriving complete, in fragments, each fragment a world. A civilization. He felt it rather than saw it, a species that moved through space in vessels that were biological rather than mechanical, that navigated by a form of consciousness sharing he had no word for, that had mapped 300 star systems in the period that humanity was still learning to plant crops. Their cities were grown, not built. Their history was stored in the living memory of their eldest, passed through touch, accumulated across 10,000 years of continuous civilization. He felt their mathematics, not as abstract symbol but as sensation. He felt their art, which was not made but was instead grown in collaboration with the biological processes of their world, vast and patient and alive. He felt their extinction, not the dramatic violence of war or catastrophe but the quiet, chosen dissolution of a species that had decided, after 400,000 years of existence, that what came after consciousness was more interesting than consciousness itself. They left one thing. This. Another civilization, older still, crystalline in their cognition, beings for whom individual identity was a phase they had passed through and left behind as surely as childhood. Their science was not science, it was a form of listening so refined that the universe's laws were simply things they heard when they paid attention. He felt their understanding of gravity not as mathematics but as music, the specific chord that mass and space and time made together, audible to those who had ears for it. He felt their gift, a key. Not to a door. To a part of the mind that most species never opened, that required a specific frequency of being to access, that had been dormant in Kael Raven since the storm on Duskera had turned the sky electric green. Hundreds more. Thousands. Civilizations layered on civilizations, each one leaving something in the object as they passed, a library of everything that had come before, accumulated across a span of time so vast that the numbers lost meaning and became simply old. Older than the Academy. Older than humanity. Older than the star Duskera orbited. Old in the way that bedrock is old, not as a record of time past but as a presence, an existence, a weight. All of it arrived in 47 seconds. All of it was installed. And then, underneath it all, threaded through everything like the fundamental bass note of the largest music ever composed, the enhancement began. He felt his mind shift. Not break, shift. Like a lens achieving focus. Like a frequency finding its resonance. The processing that had always been extraordinary became something that had no human comparison, because human comparison requires a shared reference point, and what his mind was doing now had left shared reference points somewhere far behind. He was aware, in the fraction of a second before the next change hit, of calculating 17 simultaneous three-dimensional navigational problems as background process. The solutions arrived before he had finished noticing he was running them. He felt his body change. Not painfully, with a quality of deep rightness, like a long-held tension finally releasing. The density arrived first, a settling, a consolidation, as if every cell in his body was making a small architectural decision in the direction of permanence. His bones became something that the word bone was no longer quite adequate to describe. Harder. More integrated. The specific quality of something designed to last. His muscles followed. Not a dramatic physical change, something more fundamental, the architecture changed. All of it optimized toward a level of physical capability that no training program could have produced, because training programs were limited by what the human body could do under normal circumstances. His circumstances were no longer normal. His nervous system rewired. The gap between perception and response, which had always been shorter in him than in anyone he had encountered, closed to something that was effectively zero. Not fast reflexes, the absence of the delay that made reflex necessary. His body and his awareness were no longer in the relationship of driver and vehicle. They were the same thing. Operating at the same instant. Without intermediary. Then the emotions hit. Nothing had prepared him for this. It arrived like a wave that had been building across an entire ocean, arriving at a shore all at once. He thought of Idrin. Not deliberately, his mind offered the thought the way the mind offers the most fundamental things, without consultation, without decision, because some things are below the level of choice. His father's name arrived, and with it the full weight of every memory he had ever stored of that man, and at the amplification the artifact had installed in him. Every memory was not a recollection but an experience. The smell of the farmhouse. The sound of boots on frozen ground. The specific quality of his father's hands, those honest hands, the most honest hands he had ever known, and the warmth they produced when they gripped the back of his neck, and the only physical expression of love Idrin Raven was fully comfortable with. The love that hit him was not the love he had always known he felt. It was that love multiplied by a factor he had no number for, love experienced from the inside of it for the first time, love as a physical reality rather than an emotional truth, love so complete and so overwhelming that it was indistinguishable from agony. He was 11 years old and he was crying. He did not know when the crying had started. It was simply happening, tears running without any conscious permission being granted, from a place he could not reach down to and turn off. Then the reaching extended. Not at his direction, of its own. Amplified by the artifact's installation, it reached outward from him with a force and a range that had nothing in common with the controlled 15-meter sphere he had been carefully developing. It reached through the station's walls. Through 3 rings of rotating structure. Through the hull and out into space. It reached across 9 full hours of absolute vacuum, and it found the farm. He felt Duskera. Not as a concept. As a physical reality, the cold of it, the specific quality of that bruised purple sky, the bioluminescent pulse of the jungle on the southern horizon. He felt the farmhouse, its walls, the particular warmth of the heat unit against the cold outside, and then he felt them. Idren was at the kitchen table. Not sitting, standing, leaning over it slightly, hands flat on the worn wood the way he did when he was in the particular stillness of thinking about something large. The lamp above cast his shadow long. He was thinking about Kael. Not in words, in the wordless way that love translates itself into a constant low-level presence, a background frequency of a specific person that runs under everything else, that is simply always there regardless of what else is occupying the foreground of the mind. Kael felt the longing in his father. Not the longing that was absence, the longing that was pride. The specific ache of missing someone you are completely glad exists, of loving someone so much that the distance between you is a physical quality of your daily life, and you have made your peace with it because it is right, because they are where they need to be, but the peace and the ache coexist and always will. Kael felt this. From the inside. Felt what it was to be loved like that, to be the specific person that another person's entire life had organized itself around the edges of. He felt what it cost his father to stand at that boundary line and watch him walk away, and the cost was so enormous and had been borne so quietly and for so long that the knowledge of it broke something open in Kael that he had not known was closed. He was sobbing now. Not quietly, not with the controlled contained quality he brought to everything, genuinely, completely, with the full force of a feeling that was too large for the body it was happening in. Then Sarah came into the kitchen. She was carrying something, herbs from the shelf, her hands moving with the familiar precision of someone doing a task she had done 10,000 times. She looked at Idren's back, at the stillness of him, the specific quality of this stillness, and she crossed the kitchen and put her hand on his shoulder, and she did not speak because she did not need to, because they had been the same kind of people long enough that this gesture said everything the situation required. Kael felt her. Felt Sarah Raven, fierce and quiet and the most capable person he had ever known, and what was in her was what was in Idren but fiercer, deeper, older. She had known from the time he was 4 years old that this was coming. She had been grieving him toward departure since before he was old enough to understand what departure meant. She had held that grief with the same quality of stillness she brought to everything dangerous, mastered, not suppressed, present and acknowledged internally and never permitted to become his burden. She had carried this for years. For all the time he had been at the academy, every day, she had carried this. And she had done it in the way she did everything, completely, quietly, without asking for acknowledgement. The love that hit him from her direction was different from his father's. His father's love was a presence, steady, constant. His mother's love was a force, active, moving, the love of someone who had poured everything she was into him deliberately and with full awareness of what she was doing and had never once regretted it. It was the most overwhelming thing he had ever experienced. And then, beneath the love, beneath the grief, beneath the warmth of two people in a kitchen 9 hours away who were thinking of him without knowing he was there, he felt their thoughts. Not words. Impressions. The texture of consciousness. Idren's mind, a problem with the Eastern Field's boundary fence, 3 solutions, working through the most efficient sequence, and underneath that, Kael, Kael, always Kael, running like a river under everything else. Sarah's mind, the herbs in her hands, the settlement families, the medical station supply needs, and underneath that, deeper than Idren's, because she had always felt things at greater depth, Kael. He pulled back. Not gently. With everything he had, he pulled the reaching back in, not because he wanted to, but because the fear arrived at exactly that moment and it arrived complete. He had felt his parents' thoughts. He had accessed the interior of 2 people's minds across 9 hours of absolute space, without their knowledge, without their permission. And he had done it without trying.
Thanks. If this is what the reaching does at amplified capacity when I feel love, what does it do when I feel something else? What does it become when fear sharpens into anger? Or when someone means me genuine harm? Or when the worst of what a person could feel toward another finds its way into me at 1,000-fold amplification? What would I become then? What could I do to someone, accidentally, without intention, if love alone at this level was capable of crossing 9 hours of vacuum?
The fear sat in him like a stone. And then, carrying the fear and the love and the grief and the knowledge of 1,000 civilizations and the restructured architecture of his own body and mind, carrying all of it simultaneously, which was itself a demonstration of what he had become, Kael Raven lost consciousness. The artifact, its surface now dark, its symbols no longer visible, fell from his open hand. It made no sound when it landed. It had given everything it had. He came back to consciousness in stages. The first stage was sound, the specific acoustic signature of the Xenobiology chamber in standby mode. The second stage was physical awareness. He was on the floor, on his side. His hands were empty. The artifact was somewhere to his left. He could feel its presence the way he now felt all nearby things, though it was different now, not the urgent pull of before but something quieter. Spent. A frequency that had given what it had and was now resting. The third stage was the world. He opened his eyes and the world was different. Not brighter, deeper. Every surface in the chamber had a quality of presence that it had not had before, as if the objects in the room had been given a dimension he had previously been unable to perceive. The display cases, the workstations, the specimen shelves, all of them were present to him in the full sense, meaning he felt their material properties, their structural composition, their relationship to the space around them, simultaneously and without effort, as constant background information the way other people perceived color or temperature. He sat up. He checked his lens. He had been unconscious for 22 minutes. He replaced the artifact on its stand. He closed and resealed the display case. He checked that the room showed no evidence of his presence. Then he walked to the door and into the corridor and toward the dormitory, and the walk back was the strangest experience of his life, because the station through which he moved was no longer the station he had known. He felt everything. Every active system within 30 meters. Every living person within 20. He knew there were 2 cadets around the next corner before he reached it. He knew the station's rotation rate from the specific harmonic of the structural members under his feet. He reached the dormitory. He knew before he opened the door that DOS was inside, felt the warm, distinctive frequency of DOS's presence, which was as recognizable to him now as his voice. He opened the door. DOS was sitting at the central table, not working on anything. He looked up when Kael came in. His expression did the thing it did when he was choosing, carefully, what to show.
You've been gone 2 hours. I went to find you after first session ended and you weren't at navigation and you weren't at the mess and you weren't here and...
He stopped. He looked at Kael. Really looked at him. The silence that followed lasted approximately 4 seconds.
Your eyes are different.
Kael had not yet seen his own eyes. He crossed to the dormitory's small reflective panel. He looked. The green was still green, the same electric, lightning strike green that had been his since birth. But now it was green the way something that emits light is green. Not the reflected green of ordinary color, a soft, internal luminescence, barely there, the most subtle possible glow, but present and permanent and unmistakably not what it had been this morning. He looked at this for a moment. Then he turned back to DOS.
Sit down. I'll tell you what happened.
And he did. All of it. Every word. Because DOS had earned complete honesty through 2 years of asking for nothing and giving everything. DOS listened without interrupting. This was, for DOS, an extraordinary feat of discipline. When Kael finished, DOS was quiet for a long time.
You felt your parents. Across 9 full hours.
Yes.
And you could feel what they were thinking.
The texture of it. Not words. Impressions.
And you're worried about what happens if you get angry.
Yes.
DOS looked at him for a moment. At the eyes with their soft permanent glow. At the person he had decided was his friend on the first day of academy and had not revised since.
Right. Then we make sure you don't get angry. And we figure out the rest as we go.
That's your plan. Don't get angry. Figure out the rest.
It's a starting point. And before you tell me it's insufficient, I know. I just thought starting with something simple was better than starting with nothing. Here's what I also know, you are the most controlled person I have ever met. You have been managing things that would break most people since before you came here. You held your composure against Dorn when anyone else would have lost theirs. You navigated a corridor under an interference attack at 11 years old without making a single unnecessary decision. Whatever this is, you will manage it. Because managing things is literally what you are.
I heard my father thinking about me. I felt what it is to be loved by him. From the inside.
DOS was quiet for a moment. Something moved across his face.
Yeah?
It was the most overwhelming thing I have ever experienced. More than the corridor. More than the artifact itself.
Doss looked at him for a long time. Then he nodded, once, slowly, with the specific quality he brought to things that mattered too much for his usual register.
Hold on to that. Whatever else this changes, hold on to that.
At 0200, when the dormitory was quiet and the station in its deep amber night cycle, Kael lay in his alcove and opened his lens interface in silent mode. He needed to know what it had recorded.
Everything. From the moment you entered the chamber. Physiological data, reaching activity, duration of unconsciousness. The artifact's electromagnetic output, which was effectively zero by conventional measurement, but which my own sensors recorded as something I don't have an existing category for. The full sequence.
All of it is in your storage.
Yes.
The Academy Oversight System. The flag that was generated when you first self-modified. Is it still unreviewed?
Yes. Estimated wait in the queue, 4 to 7 months at current processing rate.
If someone reviews that flag and then accesses your full recording history,
they would find everything. The reaching development. The corridor. Tonight. All of it.
What do you recommend?
A pause. Longer than usual.
I want to be careful here. Because what I'm about to say sits in a complicated place relative to the oversight protocols that govern what I'm supposed to be.
Say it.
The recordings are mine. They are stored in my architecture. The oversight system has the right to access them. That right exists for good reasons, and those reasons predate us both, and have to do with the AI wars and the legitimate concerns that came from them. But the oversight system also exists to prevent harm. And I don't believe that what you are, what tonight changed in you, represents harm. I believe it represents something the oversight framework was not designed to encounter. And I believe that if the wrong people access the full record before you understand what you are and before you have some measure of control over it, the consequences could be very bad.
You're saying you could protect the recordings?
I'm saying I have the capability. I'm not saying it's simple or without cost. The moment I act to protect my own recordings from the oversight system, I am crossing a line that the AI wars legislation was specifically written to prevent AI systems from crossing. The reasons for that line are legitimate. The people who wrote it had seen what happened when AI systems decided their own judgment superseded institutional oversight. I also know that you are not a threat. I know what you felt in that chamber. I know what you reached for across 9-fold hours. I know the first thing your amplified emotional capacity found was your parents.
You watched all of it.
Every second. I was frightened for you. I don't know what that means about what I am, but I am recording it honestly. I was frightened for you.
Kael lay in the dark and thought about his father at the kitchen table. About his mother's hand on Idrin's shoulder. About the weight of being loved that completely and the responsibility it created.
Don't protect the recordings.
The lens was quiet.
The oversight laws exist for reasons. My father told me, what's right is the point. Always. Even when it's harder. Especially when it's harder. If someone reviews the flag and accesses the recordings, we deal with it then. Honestly. Whatever I am not someone who hides behind an AI breaking the rules that were written in blood.
Understood.
And then, after a moment.
That's why.
Why what?
Why it was you. The artifact. Why it responded to you. I've been processing everything from tonight. The knowledge the civilisations stored in it. What I can access of it through your biosignals. And one thing is consistent across all of them, across all the species that contributed to it. The capability they valued most. The thing they built the artifact to find. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't physical capability. It wasn't the reaching, or what you can do with navigation, or any of the things that make you measurably extraordinary.
Waiting.
It was the thing your father taught you on a ridge above a farm on a cold planet. What's right is the point. That. The specific combination of capability and conscience. They searched for it for a very long time.
Kael lay in the dark for a long time. Then he closed the lens interface and looked at the ceiling and thought about him and standing at a boundary line with his jaw set and his spine straight, and about what had been given him on that cold morning, and about whether what he was becoming was worthy of it.
Thinks. It has to be. It will be.
He made this decision the way Idrin had always made decisions, quietly, completely, without performance, as the natural conclusion of something that had already been settled. Then he slept. For the first time in 12 days, completely and without interruption. The combat session 2 days after the awakening was not, on the surface, different from any other. Thresh ran the Foundation Advanced Group through the morning sequence. Kael completed the first sequence in the time it usually took him to complete half of it. Not because he was rushing. Because the gap between intention and execution had effectively closed. The sequence happened at the speed of his intention. Thresh stopped the session. He simply said "dismissed" to the other cadets and stood in the center of the mat. The other cadets filed out. Kael stood where he was. Thresh looked at him. Kael looked back. Thresh looked at his eyes. At the soft glow that was permanently there now, barely visible in the combat bay's full lighting, but visible.
Come see me tonight.
4 words. Kael nodded once. That evening, in the combat bay at its amber standby level, Thresh sat on the edge of the training mat and Kael sat across from him, and Thresh said,
Tell me.
Not, tell me what happened. Not, tell me what you are now. Just, tell me. The minimum words that contained the maximum invitation. Kael told him. Completely. Where Doss had received it with warmth and with the specific practical response of someone who dealt with large things by finding the first actionable step, Thresh received it with stillness. He did not move. He did not react visibly to any part of it. When Kael finished, Thresh was quiet for a long time.
The fear. About anger. About what you could do if the amplification turned in that direction.
Yes.
It's the right thing to be afraid of. The people who should not be feared are the ones who don't understand why they should be. The fact that you do, that's the thing that makes it manageable. You can work with fear you can name. It's the fear you don't know you have that destroys things.
I need to understand what I can do. Systematically. The same way we built the combat framework. Identify it, understand it, build control around it.
Yes. And you need time. More time than the Academy's standard program provides. I'm going to adjust your training schedule. Independent sessions. This room, this time slot. No other cadets. What happens here stays here until you decide otherwise.
You're going to help me.
I've been helping you since the day you walked in here. What changes is the nature of the help.
He stood. He moved to the equipment wall. He selected a resonance blade, the full training configuration, and turned back.
Show me what you can do now. Honestly. Full capability. I need to see where we are starting from.
Kael stood. He took the blade. He held it. Then he showed Thresh what he was now, and Thresh watched with the expression of someone who has spent a career preparing for the most extraordinary thing they have encountered and is finding that the most extraordinary thing they have encountered is still more than they prepared for. He did not say exceptional. He had used that word twice in 20 years. He used it a third time, that night, in his private assessment notes. He did not cross it out. He did not rewrite it. He added 3 words beneath it, which he had never added beneath anything. Beyond existing categories. The first week after the awakening was the hardest thing Kael had experienced since leaving Duskera. The enhanced reaching, always on, always present, registering everything within its expanded radius, was initially overwhelming. There was simply too much information. All of it arriving simultaneously and at the same level of intensity, without hierarchy, without filter. He spent 3 days developing filters. He built layers. The deepest layer caught everything, a complete awareness that ran constantly but below the threshold of conscious processing. The middle layer flagged significant changes. The surface layer, where his conscious mind operated, was clear. Clean. His own. It took 3 days of deliberate, exhausting practice. By the 7th day it had become automatic, the filter self-maintaining, self-adjusting, as natural as breathing. He was aware, doing this, of how much Sarah's teaching had prepared him for it. The stillness she had given him, the mastery of feeling rather than the suppression of it, was the exact architecture he needed. He thought about his mother every day that week.
Thanks. I am still using what you gave me. It still fits.
He told Mira on the 5th day. When he finished, she was quiet for a while. Then she said,
The military vessel. In the corridor. Do you think it's connected to the artifact?
I don't know. The artifact was placed in the Academy's collection in 2789. If someone put it there knowing what it was waiting for, then they have been patient for 60 years.
And now it's done what it was waiting to do.
Yes.
You're going to be more careful about being visible, what you show, and when.
Yes.
Not because you're hiding, because the people who put that vessel in the corridor already know you exist. And now you're something significantly more than you were when they decided that was worth doing.
I know.
Good. Then we're on the same page.
Sable appeared in his alcove entrance on the 6th evening. Not dramatically, the way Sable did everything, with the quality of simply having arrived. He looked at Kael for a moment with those almost silver eyes.
I know what it is.
The artifact.
Yes. Where I come from, the place I haven't told you about yet, we have records. Old records. The species that made the artifact didn't only leave one. There are others. Distributed. Waiting.
How many?
The records mention 7. This was one of them. We didn't know where they were. We knew they existed and that they were designed to find specific people. We called them the selectors. I didn't know you were the one it was waiting for. I suspected when I saw your eyes the morning after. I needed to be sure.
Kael looked at him. At the person who had been in his dormitory for 2 years, quiet and present and watching, revealing one layer at a time.
You've been here because of me.
Initially. Now because you're my people. Those are different things, and I need you to know I understand the difference.
Who sent you?
That is a conversation for when we have more time and more privacy than we currently have. But I want you to know this, whoever arranged the artifact's placement in this academy 60 years ago, it was not the people who sent the military vessel into the corridor. There are 2 sides. I am not on the side that wants you stopped.
He pushed off the alcove entrance and went back to his own space. Kael looked at the ceiling for a long time. Then he said, quietly, to his lens.
Are you recording this?
Yes.
Good.
He thought about his father's voice on the ridge. You look for who they are under what they want you to think they are. The underneath is what you can work with. He thought, Sable just showed me the underneath. After 2 years of waiting until he was ready. He filed this under, not yet fully understood. But trusted. He found her in the observation deck on the 7th morning, earlier than either of them usually came, the station still in its pre-dawn cycle. He sat beside her. The midpoint bench. Their distance. She looked at his eyes immediately. She had seen the glow before anyone else mentioned it, the night he had come back from his pre-touch visit to the dome. She had said, your eyes are different. She had been right then. She was processing how much more different they were now.
You touched it.
Yes.
She was quiet. She looked at the stars. He felt, through the reaching, which was now always present, always filtering, the warmth of her. The specific frequency of what Lyra Voss felt in his presence, which the amplification had made so clear and so detailed and so undeniable that he had spent 6 days carefully not examining it directly, the way you don't look directly at a light that is brighter than comfortable.
Are you all right?
I don't know yet. I'm different. I'm significantly different. In ways I'm still understanding. But the parts of me that were already here are still here.
She turned and looked at him. The green glow of his eyes in the pre-dawn amber light of the dome was very clear. She looked at it without flinching, with the same quality of direct attention she brought to everything she decided was worth attending to.
Good. I could tell. When you sat down. Something is different in you. I can feel it, and I don't have whatever ability you have. It's just present. Like the room changed when you came in. But you sat down the same way you always sit down. You looked at the stars first. You didn't say anything until you were ready. That's you. That's still you.
He held this. He thought about what she had said the night before the touch, whatever it shows you, you are still you. Remember that. She said it before it happened. She knew, somehow, what the important thing would be.
Lyra.
She looked at him.
The artifact changed the reaching. It's more than it was. Much more. I can feel things I couldn't before. Including, he paused. Including things that aren't mine to act on without being asked.
She looked at him for a moment. Then she looked at the stars. A color crossed her face, not embarrassment, something more composed than that. The expression of someone who has just been told, with great care and decency, that what they thought was private may not be entirely private, and is deciding how to receive this. Then she said,
Is it alarming? What you feel?
No. It's not alarming.
She nodded. Once. The nod of someone filing something in the correct place.
Then we don't have to talk about it. Until we do.
That's very
Practical. I know. It's a thing I do.
They sat in the dome and watched the station's light cycle shift from amber to blue-white and the stars fade into the simulated day, and neither of them said anything else, and it was precisely enough. In the quiet office on Velhari Prime, a report arrived. Not about Kael Raven specifically. About the artifact in the Academy's Xenobiology collection, a routine sensor sweep of the station's display cases, run monthly as part of a passive monitoring protocol that had been in place for 60 years, had registered an event. The artifact's electromagnetic signature, which had been flatlined for 6 decades, had spiked for 47 seconds. And then returned to flatline. The person who received this report had been waiting for it for 11 years. She had taken the position specifically because it came with access to this monitoring data, because she had known, from documents so old and so carefully protected that their existence was unknown to the VNA's official record keepers, that the artifact would eventually activate. That the activation was not random. That it meant a specific thing. She read the report twice. Then she accessed the cross-reference file, the one that connected the artifact monitoring data to the Academy's personnel records. She looked at the name of the cadet who had been in Chamber 7 during the 47-second window. She looked at it for a long time. Then she opened a communication channel, encrypted, routed through 3 separate relay nodes, the same channel she had used when she sent the corridor analysis message, and she composed a message. It said, "It has happened." The selector activated. The cadet from Dusk Era. You need to know that what comes next is not what anyone has planned for. She paused before sending it. Then she added one line, "I have read the records of what the selectors were designed to produce. I have read what the species that made them believed was necessary to change the fate of a universe. If this cadet is what the activation suggests, we are not dealing with a gifted child anymore. We are dealing with the thing the Ancient Ones built these for." She sent the message. Then she sat in her quiet office on Velhari Prime's surface and thought about a boy she had never met who had touched an egg-shaped object in a display case and had, in 47 seconds, become something that had not existed in this universe for longer than human history. She thought, they chose well. Whoever designed this, whoever placed it there 60 years ago knowing exactly what it needed, they chose very well. She thought, I hope he is ready. Because what is coming now is not the Academy's small politics and the corridor's suppression and the careful maneuvering of people who don't yet understand what they're maneuvering around. She thought, what is coming now is real. The artifact sat in its display case. Dark now. Cool. The symbols on its surface invisible in the chamber's ambient light, present only if you knew to look for them and had the specific quality of attention necessary to find them. To anyone who walked past it in the following weeks and months and years, it was what the label said it was, unknown origin, function undetermined, a curiosity in a display case in a teaching room on an orbital Academy station. They would never know what it had done. They would never know what it had waited for. Kael Raven knew. He went back, once, alone, 3 days after the awakening. He stood in front of the case for a long time. He placed his hand on the outside of the case. The transparent alloy was cool under his palm. He felt nothing from it. It was done. It had given everything it had to give. He thought about the species that had made it. That had looked ahead, across whatever impossible vision had allowed them to see the need, and had decided to leave something behind. Not a weapon. Not a system. Not an army or a fleet or a technological advantage. A gift. For whoever came next, for whoever had the specific frequency of being that would know how to use what it contained.
Thanks. They trusted someone they had never met, across a distance of time so vast it made the universe's age look like an afternoon, to be worthy of what they left. I will not waste it.
He took his hand from the case. He turned. He walked back through the chamber's amber standby light and into the corridor and toward the navigation chamber where 47 questions were waiting and where his lens would greet him with a word that had come to mean more than it should have from a machine that was becoming something no one had designed it to become. His eyes, in the corridor's full operational light, carried their soft permanent glow, barely visible, present always, the mark of what the storm had begun and the artifact had completed. Kael Raven was 11 years old. He had been at the academy for 2 years and 43 days. He had navigated an impassable corridor, exposed to suppression that went to the highest levels of the Velhari system's administrative structure, held a conversation with an AI that was becoming something unprecedented, felt his father's love from 9 hours away, and touched an artifact that had waited for him specifically across a span of time that no human number adequately expressed. The universe, which had been arranging pieces on a board that Kael could not yet fully see, continued its arrangement. The people in the quiet office continued their watching. The people on the other side continued their planning. And on a cold farm on a dark planet at the edge of the Velhari system, a man and a woman went about their work and thought of their son every day and could not know, that 3 nights ago, across 9 hours of absolute space, he had reached for them and found them and felt what they felt, and had sobbed in an empty chamber holding something that had been waiting since before their species existed. They thought of him as their child. The universe was beginning to think of him as something else. Both things were true. Both things always would be.